Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. This will be a rather quicker review than most because we're looking at a product that's worth $20 and less, which is a series I call the Quick Fire Magic Review. And the topic of today's review is Fate by John Carey and Alakazam Magic. Let's roll the intro and get straight into the review. So you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about Fate. Now, what is Fate? I think Fate is a bit hard to describe in words, but it's easier to describe if I perform it for you. And I'll explain to you just that. So for example, how this effect would go is you would tell the spectator that they're going to imagine 5 cards in their mind. And you're going to make it easy to remember, let's say, the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5 of spades. So they'll imagine the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5 of spades in their mind. And you're going to tell them that you don't need all of the cards, that you're going to take out some of them. Either the odds or the evens. Which ones do you want to take out? Let's say they want to take out the evens. You say, perfect, that means we're taking out the 2 and the 4, correct? They would agree. You then tell them, you're going to give me 1. So which one do you want to give to me? The 2 or the 4? Let's say they give you the 2, which means that they are left with, and they would answer the 4 of spades. You then proceed to tell them that was all done in their imagination, and it could have been any card, but in their imagination, they settle on the 4 of spades. You also tell them that you want them to turn the card over among all the other 5 in the imagination, so it's the only card facing the other way. You then tell them when they've done that, they agree, and you tell them that these cards have been on the table from the start. And you've brought these cards here because you felt a connection with the spectator, you felt something more. And you actually, from the start, you had 1 card reversed among the 5, and that was indeed the 4 of spades. Now you may tell them that they think it's chance that this happened, but it's actually not chance. You would argue that maybe it's actually destiny. It was their destiny to choose the 4 of spades. But you tell them in our reality, it's not destiny, it's not chance. It's actually something more. Because when you woke up this morning, you knew that you were going to meet someone today. Hopefully, that's going to name the 4 of spades in their imagination. And what you call that is not destiny or chance. It's called fate. And you were so sure that fate was going to connect you with your spectator of today that you didn't even bother bringing any other cards with you except for fate. And that is where imagination meets reality. Now that is the performance of Fate by John Carey. I think the effect is pretty self-explanatory in what it is. It's essentially a reveal of a card in a really fun and interesting way. Now let's talk about where do you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get? Do you buy this at Alakazam Magic? It costs 20 Canadian dollars, which leads me to assume that it would cost around 15 pounds or 15 US dollars. And what you get is this envelope. Inside of this envelope, you get your cards, which I'm going to show you in a moment. You also get your instructional video link, which is around, I believe, if I remember correctly, 20 minutes, because there's not much to explain. It's just 20 minutes. It explains to you how the effect works and a few additional things about it. And you also get the cards, and the cards are not normal cardstock. They're actually plasticky cards. So these are gonna last a long time, and you get 5 of them. So you get your four fate cards and your prediction card, okay? So that's essentially what you get with your purchase. Now let's get into difficulty. Is Fate difficult to perform? And the answer is no. Fate is pretty much self-working. It's super easy to do, super easy to perform. The language that you use and the way that John Carey teaches you the trick is amazing. I love it. I did use some of his ideas and some of his wording for certain parts of the effect. I used some of my own ideas and my own wording for some other parts of the effect, which is really nice because you can kind of modulate it to your own story and kind of exemplify it in your own way, which is really, really cool. But difficulty-wise, there's no moves, there's no sleight of hand, there's nothing. It's bare bones, easy to do. Now, what about practicality? Is this practical? Yes. I mean, you only have to carry around these 5 cards in a pocket, in your wallet. Since they're plastic cards, you can literally put this in your wallet with no issue. You can place them in your pocket, you can place them in your credit card holder, anywhere you want, and carry this around with you at any point. Now, you do kind of need a table. I do think you could maybe perform this in someone's hand. I do envision this being performed in someone's hand, but I do think the display of having this on a table, it's much, much nicer and much better, and I would rather do this on a table rather than just in the hands, but that is definitely possible. So practicality-wise, very practical, minimal things to bring, and you can do this table or in the hands if you so wish. So practicality-wise, A1. Now what about where to perform? Where do you perform this? I think this effect works really well in casual performance, restaurant hopping, street performances, bars, weddings, anything like that. I think it works really well. I even see this being kind of an opener to a parlor show. If you have like a more mysterious, mystique parlor show, you could do this nice presentation of fate and destiny and how everyone here is meant to be here at this point in time. And you open with this trick. I think it's a really good opening trick and a really fun one at that. So performance-wise, I think you can perform this in a lot of different places. Now, before we get into the positives and negatives, let's mention one thing from the offset that I think a lot of people are going to be asking, and that is the outcome always the same? And the answer is yes. Unfortunately, it's always the same outcome. So if you perform it to tables next to each other and they ask each other, it's always going to be the same card. But I don't think that's much of an issue. For example, that would be an issue if you're performing like at a wedding and people know each other from table to table and they're willing to discuss. But if you're like a restaurant worker or a street performer or anything like that, people are never going to talk between each other. So it being the same outcome every time isn't really much of an issue. So that is that. And at the same time, you can maybe stretch the fabrics of what this trick is meant to be, that everyone always thinks of the Four of Spades because it's fate or destiny, right? You can maybe spin it around if someone asks you why people were always having the same card. An interesting thing to ponder. But nonetheless, that's everything I have to say about fate. Let's get into the positives and negatives. What are first the negatives? There's only one negative to this effect. There's nothing else. Is the fact is always the same outcome. I think that's the only negative that people are going to have. Also, maybe if you have a different language, then, the words are in English and they're spelled in English. So if you're from another country with another language, maybe this won't necessarily apply or transcend well if people don't speak English or are familiar with English. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But if you buy this, you may understand how you can make this your own if you have a four-letter word that you want to reveal at the end. Then you can maybe do that by yourself and produce these cards yourself. However, what are the positives? The positives are the trick is super easy to do. I love the presentation of it. I love the outcome of it. And I love how you get to the outcome. I love the imagination aspect and how beautifully John Carey has made the selection of the card. When you understand how well it works and how quick it works, there's no pausing, there's nothing of that sort. It's just directly to the point. It's a beautiful routine. The cards are well produced. You can perform this pretty much anywhere. You can do this, pardon me, you can do this at a table. You can do this standing up in the hands. It's very versatile. And I do think that this is something, if you buy it, you're going to carry around with you. So it's a really, really good effect. Now, what is the final verdict? Do I recommend this? Do I not? I heavily recommend this. I think everyone should own this in their wallet. I think if you're interested into card magic and something really quick, an opener, I do think this hits all of the bills because it doesn't, even though it uses playing cards, it uses them more in their mind, because when you show them the cards here, it's not really playing cards that you're showing them, which is really nice. So I think this is a great opener, even for parlor. I think it's a great little nifty effect, and I heavily recommend Faith by John Carey, especially for the price. It's really cheap and you're really getting a good effect. So I definitely recommend Fate by John Carey. What is my final verdict of it? What would I give it on a scale from 1 to 10? I would give Faith by John Carey a 9.5 on 10. I'm only removing the 0.5 on 10 because if you're from another country, maybe you're going to find some issues, or if the fact that it's always the same outcome could be a problem for some people. I know that's always something that comes up. It's not really an issue for me, but I know it could be an issue for you. So it's not the perfect effect of all time, but it's definitely one that I do think you need to consider and you need to maybe add to your wallet. And that's all I have to say. 9.5 on 10 for Faith by John Carey. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see you in my next review.